This grandfather and grandson were hunting deer in a forest. But at that time, their excitement became a disaster because the grandson found a mysterious ladder in the forest. Then the grandson was finally pulled by something terrible. In 1997, a young man named Jesse and his mother were going on summer vacation to his grandparents' house. After walking for several hours, they finally arrived at their destination. Jesse was very much loved by his grandparents. Jesse and his grandfather had promised to do the same hunt as last year. The difference was that last year Jesse was still not good at it, but now he was sure he was much better. Supplies and equipment had been prepared by his grandfather. Jesse and his grandfather began their exciting adventure. A few moments later, they arrived at their destination, the right location to look for deer in it. Jesse seemed quite good at using an air rifle, and at that time, his aim was right on target, hitting the deer. Now they have to find traces of the deer using blood. The grandfather is not a new player in this matter. He is quite experienced. A few meters they walked along the trail, but in between that Jesse saw something that made him interested, like some kind of cute animal. Jesse gave him food, then the animal made Jesse follow him. Meanwhile, the grandfather found the deer but lost Jesse. Jesse found a ladder standing firmly in the middle of the forest. How could it be there? Jesse was amazed to see the construction of the ladder, which was quite good. Jesse approached the source of the sound behind the ladder, then he was pulled by something. Meanwhile, the grandfather found Jesse's bag and rifle, then he heard Jesse scream. The grandfather tried to find him and found the ladder. He saw Jesse being pulled by something until Jesse asked him for help. Unfortunately, the grandfather didn't seem to be able to save Jesse. 20 years have passed. These two men are Josh and Nick. While Nick went to the toilet, Josh bought coffee because their journey would be quite long after this. Josh and Nick will climb and explore into the forest called Saltisac, but he gets a warning from the shop owner to be careful because tonight is the night of the blood moon. Who knows what it means? Maybe it's the belief of the local residents. When the blood moon appears, anyone who climbs or explores the forest usually won't be able to return. Of course, that makes Nick scared and think. Even he became silent, as if still thinking about what the shop owner said earlier. A few hours finally, they arrived at the location of the forest entrance. There they were awaited by their friend named Rebecca and her lover named Jordan. But there is still one more friend of theirs who will come along. He is Doug. It seems Josh and Rebecca don't really like Doug's presence. Not because of the person, but because of Doug's behavior, which sometimes annoys. Yes, just arrived Doug already. Made a scene even though basically they are friends. The journey exploring the forest has begun. The cool and natural atmosphere makes their steps more steady. But unfortunately, only walking 2 hours, Nick is already exhausted. Of course, this becomes the subject of Doug's ridicule for Nick. After walking for 5 hours, they finally decided to stop for a while, drink and do other things if needed. Nick surprised them when Doug unpacked his bag, lots of jeans, and some spicy food. Again, Nick became the subject of ridicule from his friends. Which climber wears jeans? After resting enough, they continued their journey. This time they found a hut made of twigs and leaves. It seemed like it was man-made. But where was the owner? Nick felt like there was something wrong with this forest. At that time, Rebecca was left behind because she was drinking. But suddenly, she saw a woman in yellow approaching her with a pale body and a scary face. Who was that woman? Even Rebecca felt haunted by her. Rebecca ran away and looked back at the hut. Rebecca kept screaming for help from her friends. Her friends were confused about what happened to Rebecca. Why was she screaming, and as if someone was chasing her? Rebecca explained what happened, but many of them did not believe it. Only one person considered Rebecca's statement, Nick. After that, it was Doug's turn to disappear. They found his bag, water bottle, and shirt. The road led to a large lake. They thought Doug was in danger, but it turned out he was just swimming, which made his friends panic. But Doug got his karma. After getting out of the lake, his body was covered in leeches. They continued their journey. The weather was quite good and hot at that time, but they had to hurry to find the right location to set up a tent. After walking for a few hours, Josh saw a man talking to himself and looking scared. A man wearing a suit and neat. At first they didn't want to approach the man, but Josh felt the man needed help. Slowly Josh and the others approached the man. It turned out that the man was not alone. He was with a woman in yellow clothes that was the same as Rebecca saw earlier. The woman in yellow clothes was seen holding a baby. What really happened to them? Then Doug also saw suddenly a lot of blood appeared from the man's head. Even his head was perforated as if he had been shot. Josh, who tried to help, was rejected by the man and woman. Even the man pointed a gun at Josh and his friends. But the man actually shot himself in the head. That's why his head was perforated. Strangely, the man was still alive, which made Josh and his friends scared. Rebecca and Nick were the most scared and wanted to go home immediately. Nick became very temperamental because he saw this very unreasonable incident. It seems like this forest is cursed by something evil. They better leave this forest immediately. But that is impossible because they have gone too far into the forest. So like it or not, for the time being, they spend the night there and make a tent. Night has finally come. The atmosphere becomes bad because of the incident last afternoon. Many of them choose not to talk too much and go to bed early, hoping they can get through this night safely. That night, Doug had a dream that was both enjoyable and bad. He dreamed that he was with a woman, but at the same time, it turned out that the woman turned into a terrible creature and tore his body apart. Doug's screams woke up his friends when they checked. Doug was not in the tent. Doug left a trail leading to the forest away from their tent. A few meters walking, Josh found Doug's sleeping bag lying there. This became a debate between them whether Doug was sleepwalking or maybe there was something that attracted Doug there. Not long after, they saw a bright light in the middle of the forest, and the light came from the stairs that Jesse and his grandfather had found. They were quite surprised to see the beautiful stairs in the middle of the forest. Josh climbed it and was amazed by the strength of the stairs. Nick, Rebecca, and Jordan asked them to leave the stairs because they looked scary, but Josh saw behind the stairs there was a locked door. The closer they got, the more someone asked for help from inside the door. Josh and Nick tried to force the door open until they managed to get in and fell. The door took them to a fairly large secret room, like a research location. Josh and Nick thought the voice was Doug, but it turned out they found Jesse in the same condition when he disappeared. Jesse looked scared and he couldn't find a way out. Luckily, Nick and Josh asked him to leave there. But when they walked, Jesse suddenly stopped as if he realized something. When they saw it turned out there was a terrible alien-like monster. They rushed to get Jesse out and were helped by Jordan. But unfortunately, Josh didn't survive. He became the target of the monster's ferocity. Nick was very sorry to lose Josh, but he also had to leave the place because the monster came out of there and preyed on them. Nick ran until he fell in a puddle. The smell was pungent and rotten. It turned out that it was the location where the bodies were dumped by the monster, including Doug's body there. They had to keep leaving the place and looking for a place to take shelter until they found an abandoned trailer. Nick, Jesse, and Jordan managed to get in, but unfortunately, Rebecca was targeted by the monster. Now there are only the three of them left. What should they do? The only way is to wait until morning comes, but the monster keeps trying to break in. For now, they can only pray, and occasionally the monster disappears from there. Nick is very devastated by the loss of his best friend. He should have been able to prevent Josh from leaving. In between, there was a conversation between Nick and Jesse. It turns out that Jesse is Nick's classmate when he was little. The issue circulating is that many people blame their grandfather. for not being able to take care of Jesse. Nick and Jesse should be almost the same age, but Jesse is still a child. The conversation made them nostalgic, but the monster attacked again and hit their trailer. Now they have to act immediately. Jordan looks for something that might be used, and coincidentally, he finds a shotgun complete with bullets. Jesse also said that the monster is sensitive to sound, so Nick tries to get the monster's attention by throwing something, while Jordan is going to shoot it. Unfortunately, Jordan can't aim well. Finally, Jordan dies from the monster's attack. Nick still has one other way by throwing a gas canister at the monster and then throwing a flare. The monster burns badly and runs away to the stairs. The monster and the stairs finally burnt down, leaving nothing. Now only Nick and Jesse survive. The police come to check the scene. Then not long after, Jesse's mother and grandmother appear. They are getting older while Jesse doesn't. In the end, they are back together. Even though Nick lost Josh, but he found his old friend Jesse.